Facebook and YouTube, we are multi-streaming once again. So as you jump on and people jump on, please do let me know you can see and hear me okay. I'm just going to check it on my side of things as well. There we go. We've got sound. That is absolutely wonderful. I hate the sound of my Manc accent when I can hear myself again. So yeah, as people jump on, let me explain. Every week we bring you an expert stage hypnotist, and we've got some fantastic ones in the pipeline as well. And you know what? These shows are a great resource for information and your chance to kind of get to meet the people behind the YouTube, Facebook, and the stars of the hypnosis world. This week we've got something a little bit different. We have got a new hypnotist who is a rising star. I've seen lots of radio interviews with this guy. He's been in Glasgow Live, and from a personal point, I've hypnotized people around the world, or most of the world, and some of my favorite audiences ever are in Scotland. And they are literally are the best audiences in the world to be hypnotized. A lot of people will say Americans, but I've got to say Scottish audiences are absolutely one of my favorites. We've got a couple of hellos. Natasha Stanley gets the first comment. Well done, Natasha. That is a great title that someone is going to take off you at some point. And Richard Cole says, hey, buddy. Hey, Richard is obviously that hypnotist guy from Canada, and Jeff Bennick is here as well. So tonight's guest is a TikTok sensation. He is on Instagram. He's on all the socials. Jason Dobbin Morgan. Good evening, all you regulars of Grant's Posse. I wonder what you were going to say then, Jason. Tonight's guest is a great hypnotist. Oh, Dylan Lovegrove is here as well. Hello, Dylan. How are you? He's an up-and-coming star, and we're going to talk about the challenges that he's facing with kind of launching his hypnosis career kind of just before the pandemic, and the challenges that he's facing, and we're all going to kind of get the information. And he's got a great story about what brought him to the stage. Natasha Stanley says, do they understand you? A funny story, one of the first times I performed in Scotland, it was just across the border in Dumfries, and I took Alan, who normally does my sound, with me. And we've gone along the row of volunteers and asked them a question. And please, if everybody Scottish is watching this, and Fraser, I apologise for my Scottish impersonation now. But I went up to the first person. I've got, what's your favourite animal, or whatever it was what the skit was. And the person looked at me and went, Murr. And I thought, all right, well, move on to the next one. And then I've gone to the next one. I've gone, what's your favourite animal? And they've looked at me and gone, so it was really awkward. So I was looking at Alan to translate, and that was no good. And my other Scottish story is we always talk about challenging shows on this. I remember, I think England were playing Scotland in some kind of European qualifiers or something like that. And I went to a venue called the Shed in Annan. And as I've approached it, there's a big sign on the door that said, Scotland's #1 Scottish pub, home of the Tartan Army. And it was very much a sporting venue. And like I say, we were playing football. And I remember I walked on stage and I've gone, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And you've never seen 150 people go fucking English and turn their back to it. That was a challenging show. Anyway, we've got a few more hellos here. Jason Simmons is here. Roy Miller is here as well. Christine Penman is here. Hi, Grant. Fraser's mum here. No pressure. Oh, I'll mind the language then, Fraser's mum. I've got to be good now. Brilliant. Fantastic. Christine is an absolute gent. So, ladies and gentlemen, please have your questions ready and get ready for the one and only Mr. Fraser Penman, who's the other side of this. Oh, there we go. I have to click with my finger then. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Glasgow's up-and-coming superstar of hypnosis, the one and only, and this is a very niche market, but please welcome the Albino Hypnotist. I am okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling a bit down because I had my COVID jag yesterday, so I'm suffering, but I'm here, I'm alive, and I am kicking, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I must admit, the COVID jab, the first jab I had, I didn't believe she even injected me. It went in like I've never had an injection so easy. And I thought,
so quick.
I thought, I don't actually believe I've had it. The next day when I woke up, I thought I'd been hit by a train. It was rough. So
well, that's what I'm experiencing now. So if you see me sweating, that is why. I'm only using one hand tonight. The other one's dead, completely dead.
Well, there's a joke there, but we're not going to tell it because your mum's watching.
Do you know when he asked me, you left or right-handed, I thought, I've made a mistake here. I've made a
Yeah.
mistake.
Weirdly, on the jab, I mean, you're probably too young for this now, but I've just had my second jab, and I had very little kind of after effects from that whatsoever. So the next one is not too bad. But yeah, have a bit of a sleep, and you'll be absolutely fine.
I like that. Sleep seems to be my thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We've got a couple of hellos as well. Obviously, your mum said hello. Adam Richard Dealey says, "Good evening, good sir," and Ian Rogers says, "Evening all" as well.
Evening, guys.
I mean, first thing first, I mean, where's Scotland at with COVID? Because you've got slightly different rules to us.
Yeah, so we're slightly behind you guys down in England. We have kind of shops and stuff have opened up and bars have opened up and stuff, but it's still very much sit at your table, stay 2 meters apart, and obviously big events and gatherings is a no-go right now.
Yeah, yeah. I was quite lucky that I had a show quite recently, and it was so weird to do one with the current regulations.
Yeah,
and it's I'm waiting until we've got the full to do everything. It's not quite the same.
I totally agree. I was pondering that up at the start of the year, whether I go to reduced audiences and do the social distance, but I'm in the middle of just now of developing a new show, especially to go along with the new brand and everything else. And I want it to be premium. I want it to be really, really good. So I'm holding back. I'm holding back.
And do you know what? I mean, we'll touch on this later on as well. Dylan Lovegroove says, "Hey Fraser" as well.
Hey, my boy. What's up, Dylan?
There we go. Dylan's a great guy. Star of screen and television as well now.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen that.
What you said there is really important for me as well. And it's really good about you wanting your show to be premium. Stage hypnosis does so well when it's done well. So yeah, it's easy to do it low budget, but that's great. So tell me about your first experience of hypnosis.
I think my first experience of hypnosis would be a little boy. My dad was always into sort of weird and wonderful things of the mind, and I think I maybe picked it up from him subconsciously. But my first experience was Derren Brown. I suppose, like many others, Derren Brown. Derren Brown and Peter Powers later on when I was kind of in my teenage years. And I suppose I was always just fascinated at how it worked. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know whether it was magic, whether it was an illusion, and how these people would do some of these things with somebody just instructing them. And I thought maybe it's actors or stooges. And it wasn't until I started to dive into the science behind hypnosis and the mind and the brainwave patterns and really diving in and get my clinical hypnotherapy diploma that I find it even more fascinating now. Even now that I know all the scientific knowledge behind it, I know about the hypnotic language pattern, the run-on senses and the analogues and everything else, I still think you're just speaking to somebody and they just go, it's incredible. I love it.
You mentioned that Peter Powers. Peter is an icon within the hypnosis community. Is he still doing the Glasgow, or kind of before COVID, was it the Glasgow Pavilion he's still doing?
He was. I'm hoping to replace that in many years, and it'll be me in Glasgow instead. Peter's lovely, but new generation is coming through. He's still doing it. And a great job at that as well.
I love how he does the kind of the matinee show and the late night show as well. So, you know, not just successfully filling one theatre, he fills it multiple times in a night. So great hypnotist as well.
100%.
Interesting what you said then about, young blood coming through, wanting to overtake them. I know from when I was young and I was starting out, there was so much, there's enthusiasm and drive to really do well with that. And that's something, try and hold on to that for as long as absolute possible, because it creates absolute magic. And that's why some of the old school guys, and I'm pointing that way because I don't put myself as old yet. But some of the old school guys can sometimes get a bit, and I'm sure you'll experience it, I've experienced it, but they do get a bit bitter about it. And it's only because a lot of the times it's because they've not got the same drive and enthusiasm to knock on doors and get those shows.
100%. As well as being a hypnotist, I look at myself as an entrepreneur and I'm hungry for it. I'm really hungry for it. And it's not a case of, when I started this out and it started off as a hobby, I found myself in the evenings after working a full-time job, coming home and watching YouTube for 7 hours, staying up till 2, 3 in the morning, reading about the mind, reading about things. I'm a bit of a nerd with it, to be honest with you. A bit of a geek.
I do the same, 7 hours on YouTube, but it's generally kitten videos.
how to build the IKEA furniture since I bought my new house. So that's a different thing. But yeah, the enthusiasm's never lost. And I suppose if you speak to any of my friends or family, I tend to succeed in something that I'm really interested in. But over the years, I could never settle on one thing. I've done lots of different jobs, lots of different hobbies. And at the start, it was very much, yep, I love this. And within a couple of weeks, it's completely gone. Throughout me doing this, I never told anybody about it for months and months and months and months and months. I went and done all my own research. And it got to the point when I was out in the pubs and stuff, my mates would be like, can you not hypnotise anybody tonight, Fraser? And I'd be like, and I'd end up doing it anyway. And they'd fall out with me, but you just can't help it. And then I remember when I told my family, I want to do this. And then when I got my first show and I got the buzz for it, and I thought, oh, maybe I could do something I love. I don't know about it. I'm not too sure. But they kind of thought, well, if you want to do this, you need to prove it. And here we are almost 3 years later. I'm still doing all the research myself, still studying myself, got my clinical hypnotherapy diploma myself, funded it myself while working full time. And they're like, yeah, this is your calling in life. And it's not a case of if it works, it was when it works for me.
Yes. I think especially with hypnotists, it isn't something that we do, it's who we are. So you said there about your first show. Tell us about that first show. So
my first show was, I had been doing all my own research, and then I remember getting a haircut, and I knew somebody in my local area had hypnotised one of the barbers before. And I said, I'm a hypnotist, and I'd never hypnotised anybody in my life. And he said, you're a hypnotist? I said, yeah, I'm a hypnotist. He says, all right, hypnotise one of the barbers. And I thought, yep, no bother. So I got up, started with magnetic fingers for suggestibility tests.
Yeah.
And completely probably saying it all wrong, but something was working. The fingers were coming together, and I thought, inside I was like, oh, this is working. But I'm like, yeah, I've done this a million times. And then when I said sleep and he went down, I thought, oh, this is exciting. But yeah, I was completely cool on the surface. And that was my first experience. That was the only person I'd hypnotized. And then my brother runs his own martial arts company. Shout out to HYPNOTISE Martial Arts if you're watching, Ross. There's a free ad. And they do an awards ceremony every year. And I said to him, I said to my dad, because I was too scared to ask my brother. I said, Dad, go ask Ross if he'd let me perform. Now, my brother, as you know, and as I know now, running a business, it's your baby. And you don't want to put anything out there that you think is going to be rubbish. And it was a room full of 165 people.
Nice.
So I'd quickly got my liability insurance, made it all legit. And I was like, yeah, I'm a hypnotist. And I remember the night before, I remember actually speaking to Dylan before it as well, asking loads of advice. I was like, I don't know how to do this, because I'd always just done raft inductions. I'd never worked with a crowd of people for like a PMR induction, or I've never hypnotized a group of people. But suddenly I had this gig in front of 165 people. And I remember panicking, and I remember feeling sick. And I remember days and days beforehand, standing in my living room with a hairbrush, standing out, talking to myself millions of times, thinking this still doesn't sound great. But I just kept going over and going over and going over what I'd done. And then on the day of the show, I was that close to cancelling, and I was that nervous because I'd done a little bit of drama when I was younger, and I loved that. But this wasn't up on a stage. This was in a full room of people that were right there. Yeah. And but it was too late. I'd hired the equipment. I was there. I thought, oh, shit. Right. So anyway, we turned up and whatnot. So I turned up, and everybody there, obviously, I used to work for my brother as a martial arts instructor. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, and for many years trained with him, and then started teaching for him. I used to work for him. So, of course, everybody there knew me as Mr. Penman Jr., my brother's younger brother, the instructor. And they're all coming up to me. I'm not getting hypnotized. I'm not getting hypnotized. Oh, you're not hypnotizing me. I remember sitting there thinking, well, this isn't going to go well, because as you know, you need to want to be hypnotized to be hypnotized. It's not mind control in any way. I thought, oh, that's going to be an absolute bollocks show, this. So anyhow, I went up and I just went on. And as soon as I stepped on that stage, I said, people are going to want to do this. I'm going to do this. And it just flowed and it just became so natural. Of course, I was nervous, but I got volunteers up. I gave a great lecture, got volunteers up, and the show went amazing. It went absolutely amazing. And people afterwards were like, "Oh, you're so good at this. Have you been doing this for ages?" I'm like, "Yeah, loads of shows, loads of shows." And it was from that moment I was like, imagine this could be my job. Imagine I could feel like this every single day. And with everything I went through, getting bullied and loads of years of doubt and underconfident in myself and my own abilities, for that split moment, I felt as confident as when I felt since I was 12 years old. And that was a 10, 11 year gap. I was somebody who I wasn't, very miserable, very unhappy. And that moment, all my insecurities, all my worries being up on that stage completely disappeared. And I thought from that moment, I'm going to make this the rest of my life.
Yeah. And you know what, weird as it sounds, for me, I still get those nerves before a show.
I was nervous coming on here.
Yeah.
I was texting Dylan beforehand. What to ask, what to say. He's like, relax, it'll be good.
Yeah, listen, I'm nervous. This is live, and every week something bizarre happens. So
yeah,
But those nerves, dig down, use them to find that energy on stage. Your mum says I can vouch for that night. Fraser Penman was so nervous, but you know what? Like exactly what you said. That moment when you've got those nerves and you go out there and everything works, there is no greater feeling in the entire world. I always say that's when I become myself, is that moment.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of comments here as well. Natasha Stanley says she's got a black belt in Taekwondo too. I don't know if she's showing off or if she's threatening us.
She wins.
Yeah, that hypnotist guy says, a great backstory, being passionate will keep you moving forward. Don't lose that. Absolutely. And Jeff Bennett says, haha, those are the best times. And also we're getting some love for your eyebrows as well.
My mate's like, do you know what? I just got them done today. I get them waxed.
Brilliant. There we go. And Natasha says, I love that your mum is supporting you as well. It's so important to have that support network because, there will be times when shows are a challenge and that can really knock you off your game a little bit. And to have a support network, to have someone there you can talk to. I talked to a guy called Ian D. And Jason Nobby Morgan, who Jason's a great guy as well. And those two are my people that when I have a bad show and I'm on the road, I kind of talk to them and debug it in my mind. And then you kind of go, do you know what? It just wasn't that night. Yeah. Speaking of challenging shows, have you had one of those yet that really kind of, makes you kind of think about things twice?
Yes. So it was after that gig. So that was around about Christmas time. And I remember in the January thinking, oh, that's it. I'm going to start going out gigging. So I went, I was sending out, I must have sent over about 2,000 emails in the first month. Yeah. Everybody was ignoring me. Nobody came back to me. I had no reputation. Nobody knew who I was. And bearing in mind, at this time, I still had black hair and a beard. Yeah. I was still wearing the fake tan, still being something I wasn't quite yet. In fact, no, I ditched the fake tan, but I still hadn't quite went naturally back to my own hair yet. So it was just Fraser Penman Hypnosis at that point. And I remember getting my beautician at the time's partner, or ex-partner, sorry, he ran a pub in the local town. And he says, yeah, no problem. Come in and get a gig. So I went for an interview and he said such and such and whatnot. And he said, yep, that's fine. We'll get you in on a Friday night. And this pub maybe sat about 30, 40 people max. Not a huge pub, quite small. And he says, yep, we'll promote it. And I says, look, it needs to be promoted. I said, people need to know they're coming to a hypnosis show and all that good stuff. And without giving any names or whatnot, of course, it wasn't promoted. I found me the night before thinking there's not even a poster. There's not even a poster up. Yeah. So I walked into this pub and it wasn't even a ticketed event. It was just people sitting in. Now it's an old man's pub as well. People were just sitting in with the pints and there was about 10 people. Now, luckily I'd hypnotized a couple of people before and I said, I'm doing this show. So a couple of my friends came down and whatnot. And I thought, because I didn't really want my friends as well, because I thought, I know yous, so I'm not going to pick yous or anything like that. And I don't want yous volunteering in case anybody thinks we're friends. And of course, we know we don't use stooges. Yeah. So it came to getting volunteers, and the sound system was gammon, and so I ended up ditching the mic halfway through the show. But anyway, it came to the volunteer part, and nobody came up. I thought, bit of a hassle, this. So I ended up turning around and saying, look, if nobody volunteered, we don't have a show. And obviously people probably thinking we don't really want a show, but I was there. They're getting a show. I was there. So I ended up getting a couple of people up. So anyway, I had two people, and I'd done a show with 2 people. But I remember coming away for that show thinking, that is the last time I am renting equipment, humping stuff away, performing little gigs. I'm going to perfect my show, perfect my brand, perfect my craft, get a good reputation for myself. And my place is for the theatres, for the cruise ships, and for the big conferences. And I've had gig offers and stuff for smaller places, and I've always said I'd rather not have the work, and I'd rather go for my line of work and my vision, because once you step down, it's harder to go back up again, and keep it there. And that's what always have been. Now, that makes things 10 times harder for yourself. But it's always with my vision, and as you know, when you believe in something, you can't stop until it's done, can you?
Exactly. A few more comments here as well. Megan Wright says she's finally made it. She had to get some shopping in.
That's my girlfriend. Hi, Megs.
The hypnotist guy says, gammon, haha, that's Scottish for shite. Brilliant. I mean, yeah, it's great what you say there about kind of not wanting to do the budget venues because it can affect your branding. And it's absolutely right. You've got to find a balance of stage time and performance time versus what you're putting out. I see you do quite a bit of stuff on TikTok as well. Tell me about that.
So TikTok came about, personally for me, I'm not a massive social media person. But as you know, with branding and when you run a business and everything else, you need to. It's how you get yourself out there. And TikTok, as we know right now, is the biggest trending thing. And I thought, everybody else is on TikTok. I'm going to go on TikTok. But I just came out as the Albino Hypnotist and for the new branding, and there was no shows. I was just getting noticed and just getting the press releases and on the radio, and then COVID hit, and I was like, well, there goes all my content. So I had this new branding and had no content. So for months and months and months of planning, when stuff finally eased off and we got everything okayed by lawyers and NHS and everything was very protected, we had to end up hiring out a private hotel venue, and we managed to do virtual castings to get volunteers in 2 meters apart to get content. And I took a videographer along for the day. And we filmed some content, and it was amazing. And that's what's up on TikTok just now. Until my shows, hopefully, I'm heading over hopefully to the US second half of this year, and you can see the live performances, the very first live performances of the Albino Hypnotist. Brilliant. New brand.
I will say as well, the way that you kind of cast for the TikTok video was brilliant, and a lot of the established hypnotists that are on here could learn a lot from that. I saw you kind of put it out on TikTok and Instagram as well. I think I've got your Instagram here.
Get it plugged. Get it plugged, Grant.
Get it plugged. There you go. Instagram.com, the Albino Hypnotist. When you put that out there, it was like casting for the next TikTok superstars, blah, 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 come down and do some hypnosis.
Yeah.
And it was a great way of kind of still putting content out there and creating content. And well done on that.
Thank you so much. I will say it's not easy. Expect to get some backlash. Even me, I had some people saying, I think you're breaking regulations and we're going to try and sue you and do this and that. But of course, you wouldn't be there unless you followed all the regulations. It took months and months of planning and contracts and lawyers. So all I'd say is be prepared for it. But it's definitely a really good idea, especially if you're in the UK right now and you're not traveling. You need to keep putting out content to stay in the algorithm. So definitely doing virtual castings or hypnotizing people virtually. Just put out anything you can. I used to worry about numbers and if it's good or not. If you like it, put it out. If people like you, they'll return it back. Not everybody in the world is going to like you, and that's absolutely fine. And it took me a long time to accept that. I think Gary Vaynerchuk puts it really well. He says, just put content out there. You know, the good stuff will rise to the top, and the stuff that's not so good, the algorithms won't let people see it anyway. So it filters it out for you. So tell me about what you were doing before the hypnosis bug caught you, because you obviously got some skills as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. Tell me about what you did before
that you're finding is a good transition to where you are now?
So I started working as a mental health support worker originally. I was always wanted to, from when I used to get bullied. I remember that I never really have a lovely support network and friends and in family. But when I was going through the toughest time of my life throughout school, there was no real, I say support network. I felt back then there was no support network. I'm sure there was, but I always believed in somebody sitting over the other end of the table who's trying to help me. I couldn't ever really relate to it. One, because it was an older generation, and that's nothing against anybody that's older, but I would have needed somebody to look up to say, look, I've been through this. I've come at the other end of it. Let me inspire you so you can do the same. So from a young age, I thought I can either go two routes. I can either hold a chip on my shoulder, which I did for quite a long time, and get into trouble, which I never did, or I.
Oh, we just appear to have lost Fraser there for a second. Hopefully, Fraser, if you're watching, if you could reconnect that link and come back in. So yes, like I said, something unique always happens on the tech side of things. I don't know if he's back. There we go. I think we have got him back now. He was just doing that just to keep me on my toes, I believe. There we go. We are back now. Here he is.
Fantastic. There we go. There we go. Got to keep it. Anything can happen when it's live, right?
Exactly. So do you think, this is quite a deep question really, do you think because of the bullying when you were young and those issues that created, do you think that's what gives you the, why you feel more at home on stage? I mean, as a hypnotist, we do give out a sense of power. Do you think that is the one thing that is a good driver for that?
I think I always had the passion to help people, and I wanted to help people. I always had an interest in hypnosis, but the real reason I discovered hypnosis was I had my suicide planned, like 3 days out from suicide. I was very, very unhappy. And I actually used self-hypnosis to completely change this. I'd been to counselling and everything, and I'm not saying it works for everybody, but I couldn't ever stop dyeing my hair, couldn't ever stop wearing a fake tan. I just didn't have the confidence to even leave the house.
Yes.
After I hypnotised myself, I binged the hair dye, I binged the tan the very next day, and this was created. So I know firsthand from me, it saved and changed my life, and I want to pass that on. That's why I got the clinical hypnotherapy diploma, so I could help people. But my passion, I just love entertaining and being on stage. It feels amazing, and yeah, I love it. Like I'm smiling now, just thinking about it.
Good. I must admit, when I kind of saw the transition of your branding, when you kind of went for the Albino Hypnotist, and it's your stuff is on point. Your branding's brilliant. You've got good pictures out there, and do you know what? I always joke about the migraine headache pose, and there's some great hypnosis posters with the migraine headache pose, but there's a lot of, there's a lot of guys that they get a friend to take a picture and it's not of good quality. You've got great quality pictures out there, so you do.
Thank you so much, Jan.
What challenges do you see coming forward for you, kind of with show wise? Where would you like advice on what things you think can make you kind of take it to the next step?
Yeah. So I was struggling. I was struggling to get my name out there. And I said previously that I sent thousands upon thousands of emails and everything, and nobody was getting back to me. Yeah. And I've reached out to a couple of people. I've managed to, after pestering them for ages and ages, they finally gave me a little bit of time. I think they must have thought, fine, I'll answer them. So I've actually had some lovely chats with Richard Barker and Anthony Gailey, and I now actually have a mentor in Michael C. Anthony out in the US.
Brilliant.
So he's now my mentor, and he's guiding me on where to go. I can't say too much because that's my stuff, but he's definitely put me in the right direction.
And you're doing the right thing as well by getting that mentor, by getting the additional training, by being kind of focused with people like that as well. It helps you stage hypnosis, especially in the UK. And there's some great UK stage hypnotists, but the way the Americans do it, they're so supportive, they're so helpful of each other.
I try to, because universities and things out there and grad nights is a massive thing.
Yeah.
And I tried writing to the universities here, and
no,
it's just not a thing. I mean, I'm not saying nobody. I know a couple people that maybe got one or two, but I struggled. I really struggled, and I'm not one that takes no for an answer. I try. I think if you want to do the big theatres and stuff in the UK, you need to have a reputation. You need to have a name behind you. So I'm now focusing on the next probably time I come back to the UK is when I'm be even more established than what I am.
It's the best way. It's the best way. And if Michael C. Anthony, sorry, the hypnotist guy says Michael C. Anthony, great guy. He is. Hopefully, if somebody gives him a nudge, he could be a guest on this show and plug his Stage Hypnosis University.
See what I can do.
Exactly. So yeah, did you say earlier you were going over to the States to do some training with some people?
I am hoping to. There's talks. There's talks, Grant. There's talks.
It's so important on your journey. And don't get me wrong, loads of people will try and convince you to do all sorts of training.
Yeah.
But you know what? Look for the people that you admire and train with them. And then once you're finished with them, find somebody else and train with them. And there's a few big names out there that will all tell you the same thing. They'll all say that their course is the only course you need to do. And that's true. But do all of them. But don't rush it. Take all your time and learn from different mentors, because you'll pick up bits and bobs from everybody, and it will make you brilliant.
I think what I've learned over the last couple of years is, you're right, there's some amazing people out there, especially Mike Mandela and all of his stuff. And I used to find that sometimes you would go on these trainings weekend, get a bunch of information, and then they kind of say, see you later, you're out the door. You really need somebody that will invest in you and believe in what you're doing, but nothing's for free. You need to invest. I invested all of my free money, everything into my business. I have been skint for about 3 years, but it's my passion, and that's what you do. So anything that's worth doing, I always say to people that today you're doing what people don't want to do. Tomorrow you will be doing something that people can't do. And that's the difference. Yeah,
exactly. Megan White says, I think the US is just bigger for entertainment compared to the UK. Unfortunately, with hard work and determination, it shouldn't be a problem. One thing I will say, working that UK market and the Scottish market as well, it will really help you hone your skills. And every show that you do that's a challenge is only going to make you a better hypnotist as well. So you don't ever get knocked back by that.
For sure. I think there is a demand, especially for, as you say, the new generation, bringing a new style to an old found art. There's definitely a requirement for it. It's not as popular over here, but it's definitely a requirement. As much as we know each other all in the hypnosis world, there still isn't a lot of us. The
advantage that you've got over a lot of established hypnotists is, after a while, ego can get to you, and then you don't want to knock on doors and tout for shows. When you're young and new, you're keen to do that. You put in the legwork, you put in the time to create and write a new show, create content. You put in that extra work because you've got that extra energy. And the good thing with the UK market is, I do audiences now and go, who's seen a hypnosis show before? And the majority of the audience has no idea what stage it is.
Sure.
Like you just said, your first experience was with Darren Brown. So because of that, you're showing people something new.
There's
not a lot of competition out there. So, it is a good market.
And the beauty of that, Grant, if something goes wrong, you tend to be the only one that knows about it.
Oh, exactly. And it's even on a, you can do a terrible show. I mean, aim not to do one, aim to do your best, but you can do a terrible show. But afterwards, people will still come up to you. And for them, it's the first time they've seen hypnosis. It's the first time they've seen this stuff, and they're fascinated by it. So you can have a bad show and still get great contacts and great bookings from that show.
And of course, and that's the beauty of it. Of course, sometimes we have shows and we think, oh, that was a lot of fun. And we get other shows and I'll come off and I'll be like, I'm a bit annoyed with myself. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Because you're always picking at yourself, aren't you, to improve. But the reaction, as you say, from the audience afterwards and people coming up after us, that is incredible. I've never seen anything like that. And that's the beauty of it. And I suppose for a lot of people, you could maybe start to slack and get into the mentality that you don't need to put in as much effort. But I've got the attitude as in, once you set in a goal, achieve it, keep going and going and going and going. I'm a perfectionist. I'll probably never be happy with my show, but I'll die trying.
Yeah. Natasha Stanley says, with you mentioning Darren Brown and cruise ships earlier, actually, I don't know if you know Christopher Caress, but myself and Chris are running a 2-day masterclass. And Christopher Caress is actually managed by the same guy that manages Darren Brown.
So that's a gentleman I need to meet.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I know there's a couple of people. Jason Simmons has done the course a few times. And Chris is a phenomenal. He's the king of cruise ships.
Wicked.
Chris, if you're watching, come on the show.
Chris, drop me a message. I'd love to pick your brains.
Yes, brilliant. So what's next for you as well? You said you were putting together hypnosis, kind of mentalism stuff as well. What else you got going on?
So I'm developing my new show at the moment. Completely brand new, completely new induction, everything's brand new, never been seen before. And I'm hoping to take that to the US the second half of this year, go on tour, and then hopefully maybe next year continue to be out in the US, keep touring maybe for the next year, and then hopefully coming back to the UK to do some theatres.
Brilliant. Dylan Lovegold says it should be going to it this time. Brilliant. It would be great to see you there, Dylan. Natasha Stanley, to the course, I will be there. Oh, and Natasha Stanley is going to be there on the course as well.
Awesome.
Awesome. Like a little family reunion, this course.
Yeah, I like it.
Brilliant. You say you're doing you're doing some conversations with Richard Barker, who's a great marketing guru as well. Come on the course, Fraser, we could all meet.
Oh, wicked. I'll buy the beers.
Brilliant.
You're there.
You're talking with some great hypnotists over in the States as well.
Yeah.
What's your goal? Where do you 5 years, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself in your hypnosis business?
Personal or business?
As in the hypnosis business.
Oh, okay.
Or personal business as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple of goals. My first goal is I'd love to get to the point where financially I'm doing well. That when it comes to setting up a family, I have that flexibility and freedom. I always want to work hard now so that when it comes to me having children, if the kids need an appointment and I need to take off a couple of weeks, because my girlfriend right now, she's in the military, so she travels a lot. So I'm hoping that when she's traveling, I could maybe be back home with the kids and stuff when they're older and not financially struggle. That would be my goal, to have flexibility, bring up my kids in a nice area. So that's the goal for me. Hypnosis wise, I'd love to be doing theatre shows. I'd love to be doing theatre shows, cruise shows, and hopefully then maybe writing an autobiography and doing some motivated speaking as well.
Fantastic. The cruise shows are once you establish your show and you do a cruise, it's a whole new level.
Yeah.
There's some people say cruise works easy. Not the production level. On
it's so hard to
get unbelievable. In. Yeah.
Disney will not even look at you unless you've got.
No. But like I say, Christopher Caress is the cruise guy. I mean, Richard Barker as well. He does a lot of stuff as well. So yeah. Jeff Benink says, I'll go over the pond too. Jeff Benink is from the Netherlands, and he flies out to the States and does shows over there and kind of, does both markets.
Yeah.
You guys should maybe connect and, share stories.
Definitely. I've been to Amsterdam once. It was an experience.
Yes, it does have. It has a mind-altering experience as Amsterdam.
Love it. My girlfriend's going to kick me in the ass as soon as I get off this call.
Fantastic. What does your girlfriend do, if you don't mind me asking?
So she's in the logistics corps. So she works. So she's Welsh. So she's in the Welsh Guards, and she works she's based actually down in Cirencester right now. So she's in the base, but she's about to go out on deployment to Cyprus.
One of the first military bases I did was the one down in Cirencester.
Right.
There's a big cannon. Just as you go through the entrance, you drive in a little bit. There's a little mini roundabout. There's a big cannon there. I've finished the show, which was great fun. I had some great video footage as well from it. I've gone back to the security gate to leave the base with Alan. Handed in the security passes, and then said to the person, is there any chance we could get our picture on the cannon thing, like the little tank?
Yeah.
And they've gone, yeah, not a problem. Now, bear in mind, we've handed back in our security passes and then walked back into the base. So there's me and Alan, who does my sound, kind of by this tank, having our pictures taken and everything. And then two defenders just pulled up. All these guys jumped out and are like, right, where's your security pass? And we're like, It's over
Nightmare.
there.
Absolute nightmare.
Made us delete every single picture, every video clip that was in the camera. So
Well,
yeah,
I tried to send her flowers once to her base, and they got rejected. She had to come down and get them because of the bombs and all the rest. It's a nightmare.
yeah.
So now if she wants flowers, she gets them when she comes up. So
Brilliant. I mean, don't start sending too many flowers too early on in a relationship. It sets a bad example for as it goes on further.
she said me. I complained that I never had
apologise.
flowers. I complained I never had flowers, so she gave me a bunch. So can't complain.
Oh, brilliant.
She's a keeper.
Brilliant. Well, do you know what, Fraser? It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. It's been good to kind of speak to you and for us to make this connection as well. And you've definitely made some good connections in the comment section as well. Jeff Benning says you're welcome to kind of touch base with him. Jeff is a great guy as well from the Netherlands.
Oh, fantastic!
And it's always good to have a friend in the Netherlands.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah,
it's always a really desirable place to be.
Exactly. Do you know what? And again, the UK does get a bad rap sometimes just because we've got shit weather.
Yeah.
But it's a great market for hypnotists. And it's one of the things that because of what we do, we can work anywhere. And try and do as much as you can in every different type of environment because you'll learn something from every single one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And
so I always ask people as well about the challenging shows. What was your favorite show you've done so far? You know, the one where, was it the first one? I don't know, but the one where you come off and you kind of feel like, where you come off feeling like Darren Brown himself.
Yeah. So I've had some really, really amazing shows, but I think nothing beats that first one. Nothing beats that first one. Was it perfect? Hell no. But it shaped me to who I am today. It gave me that desire and that fire in my belly to try and become somebody when I felt like a nobody. So I don't think I could ever replace that. No chance.
I always ask this question, and I'm dead upfront about it. It's only so I can put a link in the description on YouTube to the Amazon affiliates. But if you were to recommend 2 books about hypnosis, what would they be?
Oh, probably for me, I would probably think I love Michael C. Anthony's book on body language. That helped me learn a lot, although it's not directly with hypnosis. It made me shape my show and how I present myself amazingly. Another one where I first get started, the very first book I ever picked up was Rory Z. Fletcher, Rapid Inductions. Yeah.
So, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. I look forward to watching your career develop further. If I was to give you one piece of advice, 2 pieces of advice,
sure.
Never let it consume you, that whole ego. The better you get, still be humble, still be open to learn more things. And the second piece of advice is the more successful you become, buy your mum a house.
I keep, I have a very small circle now. And the way I see it, before you make money, those people loved you. So the people who love you after you make money, would they still have been there? Exactly. And I know there's a lot of politics even within the hypnotic world, but I'm not interested in that. I'm just a young guy trying to do something he loves. And I really appreciate, I shout out actually to Dylan Lovegrove, because he was one of the very first people I ever reached out to when I knew nothing, I had nothing. And he was giving me ideas on how to market and everything, even on patches where he would maybe look for work himself. And that's really credible. And hopefully one day, maybe if I ever become half of what Michael C. Anthony is, maybe I can do the same for somebody else. So, Grant, I think yourself really highly regards. I think you're amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, bud.
Thank you for having us. And take care and good luck with everything you got going on.
Yeah, and I hope that we pump you tomorrow in the football.
Did I see Yuri Geller is actually working with the Scottish football team in order for you to beat England? So, I mean, I'm not saying anything.
I'll message you after the show.
Exactly.
Have a good one,
absolutely fantastic. Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Every week we bring you an expert stage hypnotist performer. Next week we've got a great guest on as well. So from me and from Fraser, thank you very much and good night.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.